Hey, welcome back. This is day 2 of our FSBO drill down. Hopefully you've listened to yesterday's podcast. We love all the feedback you guys have been giving us. By the way, if you ever want to get a hold of us, pop over to Instagram. Tim and Julie Harris is our handle, of course, right? And send us a message there. And thank you for all the great feedback on this podcast. I actually kind of love the fact that you guys liked our free-flowing, less, I think, formal style of presenting on today's show, because let's be honest, it's a hell of a lot less work when we don't have to create an outline. But there you go. So thanks for the great feedback. If you've not done so, please do remember to give us a 5-star review over on iTunes and let us know why you loved the podcast. In the meantime, today is day 2. Make sure you listen to day 1, which was yesterday. Have a fantastic day. Love the podcast, and let us know that you did through giving us a 5-star review over on iTunes. Why the hell they have to sell the house? Because the ones that list and the ones that sell are the ones that have to sell. Those of you who have had listings and you've been successful getting them sold, look at your list of the last 10 listings you've sold and ask yourself what the motivation was. Every single one of them, there might be an outlier, but every single one of them had to sell. You didn't even pre-qualify them. You probably didn't find out their motivation until after you had the house listed. But you need to know all of this because it helps you to understand what, essentially how to position yourself in the next conversation with that seller. Am I hitting on all the high points, Julie?
Yeah, well, in other words, keeping the house isn't an option, as you said. Something bad may happen if they don't sell it, right? Which means their relocation, they don't get to relocate as a family. It could be a divorce settlement. I know one of my calls yesterday was with our Canadian broker, John Walkinshaw. He's dealing with people who are getting divorced. Neither one of them, literally the judge said you will be selling the house.
Well, that's called a
divorce decree.
Divorce decree, where the judge, decrees.
This is how it's going to go.
Yeah, exactly. And so then the house has to, by the way, the reason that you want to know motivation is because Julie's example, a divorce decree, that is a very motivated seller. And so if the judge gave them 90 days to sell the house, they're going to allow showings. They're going to price it right. They're going to fix condition issues. You guys get it? That is yes. A motivated have to sell seller. And I want you to mentally go back in time. I told you 30 seconds ago, that almost every seller that sells is a have to sell seller. So the probability of you coming across a want to sell seller, an unmotivated seller, is maybe 1 in 20. So that means that almost every single for sale by owner that you're going to talk to has to sell their house, is motivated. If they don't list with you, they're going to sell it for 25% less. We know that, 11% of the time they're going to be successful. 89% of the time they're going to list with a broker. The wind is at your back, dear listener.
And the other reason that you get their motivation is because I'm going to bring you back into the script so you can finish the close.
Thank you.
Okay, so if you don't have their motivation, it's very difficult to close them on working with you, because remember that your job is to be of service. Your job is to solve their real estate challenge, right? So by knowing what their goal is, I need to get in my new construction house. I don't want to have 2 mortgages when that's finally finished. I need to relocate to Atlanta. I'd like to relocate with my family. I've already bought. Those are the best ones. I've already bought something and I've already closed on it, and I can't stand these 2 mortgages at the same time. That will then roll into your ability to close them on you helping them meet their needs faster and more efficiently.
Thank you. So don't let me forget for us to go and talk about some of the things the seller might say when you're setting up the appointment. Are you bringing a buyer by, those types of things? So let's go back to those typical objections. There's only like 3 of them.
Okay.
All right. So you're going to walk. Now you could do what I'm saying right now over the phone, but really the most effective way to do it, especially if you're just getting started for sale by owners, is setting the appointment on the phone, like I said initially, and then going out, doing the tour, like I said, and then going right to this next line that I'm about to say. So if you follow these steps, and again, I promise you guys, the psychological impact of energy and enthusiasm and following the other procedures we teach you to do in Premier Coaching, they're going to more often than not, even if you kind of fumble the process that we're teaching you or just training you to do now that we coach you to do in our Premier Coaching program, they're going to want to do business with you just because they loved your energy and enthusiasm. I cannot understate the importance of energy and enthusiasm in life in general. And if you got to, med yourself a little bit with some caffeine, it works for me. Works for Julie.
That's why we're doing it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you make an important distinction. It is better to go in person because it's a competitive advantage.
Well, it's harder for them to reject you.
Yes.
And if you follow our procedure and you look nice and you present professionally, they're going to most likely like you. I mean, listeners, most people do like you. They do.
Hopefully.
You're probably a people person. So even if you're not, a Jedi with the script and the technique, your likability factor is going to help you, win the deal, get the listing, help the person sell their home. All right. So you've gone through the home. You've done everything right. And here's what I want you to say. Now, I'm going to give you a little psychology here. And this is absolutely a 100% something that if you remember is going to give you superpowers when listing any kind of home, but especially for sale by owners. And I'm going to treat, my example I'm going to give you is going to be a married couple. Okay? So almost always, and I honestly cannot think of a single example from my personal experience of selling, thousands of for sale by owners, or frankly, talking with all the coaching clients and the 100,000+ coaching calls I did, where the example I'm about to give you is wrong or not accurate. But I'm sure there's an example where it's not, where there's an exception, right? That said, a couple, there's only one of the two people, man and woman, whatever, woman, man. There's only one of them that wants to FSBO. The other's just going along for the ride.
Almost always.
Well, I mean,
that's very textbook.
It's so funny, but it's true.
Yeah.
And the one that wants to FSBO has, he's just trying to prove to himself. Listen to me.
Yeah.
It is almost always the man.
Yeah.
He wants to prove to his family. He wants to prove to his wife he can get the home sold. Again, his extent of researching it was price shopping the FSBO signs at Home Depot. That was the extent of it. And maybe he's read some things online, but that would be the end of it. He doesn't know the 25% statistic.
No.
He doesn't know the fact that 89% of FSBOs fail to sell their homes. He doesn't know the numbers. He just wants to have the satisfaction of proving to the world that he could sell his own damn house. The real estate, big real estate or whatever, right? All of that be gone. I'm going to prove to everyone that I can actually get the job done. Okay, Mr. Seller. What he's asking for, what he's wanting, is he's wanting a gratuitous pat on the back. And here's how you do it. Remember, I'm telling you this. You could be sitting at their kitchen table, which you probably will. So after you've gone on the tour of the house, ask to sit down at their tables. Tell them you have a few questions. You want to summarize some things and take some extra notes or whatever. Always have a pen and paper handy. Always write down what they say. And then say this. And this is something Julie and I trademarked. And it's something that we wrote years ago and we've refined over the years. Hopefully I get it right the first time. I wish I had the notes in front of me, but like I said, I didn't have the chance to pull this up. And here's the gist of it. And again, I want you to visualize you're sitting there with the husband and the wife. We already know that the wife just wants to get the home sold. She wants to move to where she wants to move. And the husband's basically, trying to prove that, he can FSBO it himself and whatever. So there's a psychological win that you have to give him for him to want to move forward with you. And if you do it in front of the spouse, what I'm about to say, you're going to win and you're going to laugh because you're going to remember this podcast where you learned this. Here it is. Mr. Seller, listen, I appreciate the fact you want to try to sell your home yourself. And frankly, if I didn't have a real estate license, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'd at least consider selling my own home, especially if my home was as nice as yours that I was trying to sell. Because let me tell you, you have priced this house in the ballpark. It's definitely market correct. The condition of the house is fantastic. The improvements you made, the bathroom that I just went through that you remodeled, dare I say that's a lot nicer than the houses you're going to be competing against. So you did a fantastic job. The new deck out back, the landscaping, the basement that you finished and you put in that extra bathroom, that is such a home run. I'm so excited for you. So you have got this house positioned right on the market. I do agree with you. The house is nicer than some of the others, most of the others, frankly, for sale. You've got this even priced right. So there's no doubt in my mind, Mr. Seller, and again, maybe I shouldn't say this as a licensed agent, but I'm going to. There's no doubt in my mind that you can probably sell this house yourself. But let me ask you a question. If I pop by with one of my buyers and the buyer wants to, close around your schedule, has no issues with the inspection, no issues with the appraisal, no issues with your time frame. In other words, you're completely in control at all times. Mr. Seller, you are in control. You're choosing the close date. You're moving out, not, over a schedule that's agreeable to you, that's easy for your family. You are, essentially not having to feel like you're being raked over the coals for some ridiculous inspection or appraisal issue. In other words, this is the buyer you've been hoping for. And Mr. Seller, I'm going to take care of all the showings. I'm going to take care of all the legal stuff. There's something like 60 to 70 different people that are involved in every real estate transaction. The people you'll deal with directly, like the buyer, And all the other people that are associated with the transaction. There's the title, there's the escrow, there's a home inspector. Home inspector might suggest the house be inspected for radon, so there's the radon inspector. Oh, we have a foundation question now. There's the foundation guy. All the people, and there's a lot of people, all the things, and there's a lot of things. And then there's the liability. You might know that I'm hoping you read about this, but a lot of for sale by owners end up in litigation after the transaction because of something that the new buyer feels that the seller should have disclosed to them. And now you're essentially in this muckety muck for over a long period of time. So I want you to think about this. I have no doubt you can sell the house yourself, but if I can take care of all the things for you, all the hassles, all the showings, all the inspections, and you're always in control. And Mr. Seller, here's what matters most. And here's what I'm hoping you're understanding. The check I hand you at closing is the same. And here's the best part. Wait for it. If it's significantly more than you'd be able to get selling the house for yourself. In other words, Mr. Seller, you can have your cake and eat it too. You're getting back your time. You're avoiding the hassle of having to deal with all those people and all the processes. I'm taking care of all the legal liability. I'm doing all the work. And you win. You have your cake and eat it too. And the check I hand you at closing is the same, if not significantly more, than you'd never be able to get selling the home yourself. Mr. Seller, why wouldn't you list the home with me? And here's what he's going to say. At this point, by the way, if you've delivered this with even a tenth of the energy and enthusiasm I just did for you guys, because I was doing it to try to really get you to pay attention, but even if you just did 10% of what I just did, both of them are going to be listing. And here's how you know you essentially are on the road to getting the contract signed. The seller, the Mr. Seller in this case, the one that decided to, be the FSBO, he's going to lean in and he's going to say some version of what I'm about to tell you. If you can prove to me you can do all of that, I would list the house with you. Boom. I promise you at that point, you're taking that damn listing unless you screw up something and, you start, I don't even know what, doing something ridiculous, right? But at that point, you've got the listing and here's why. Mr. Seller, I'm so glad you asked. You're going to pull out of your briefcase the statistics that Julie Harris just gave you and you're going to show them. And you're going to then show them the numbers, but then you got to break it down. You got to make it real. So, Mr. Seller, your house is $500,000, and based on what you only owe $150,000. So that's $350,000 before expenses. What do you realize on average, based on what I just showed you, the average for sale by owner sells for 25% less than had the home been listed? That's in your case, Mr. Seller. That's $70,000, $80,000 less. Now, can I tell you why there's such a big discrepancy? And they're going to say why. And you're going to say because all the best buyers, especially in your price range, are already working with agents because you're in a move-up price range. They're working with the agent that they've listed their home with to help them buy a home. In addition to that, in your price range, you also are going to be dealing with a lot of relocating families. They're moving from totally different states, if not different parts of the world. And guess what? They're also working with a local real estate agent that was essentially assigned to them from their reload company or their corporation. You probably know some of your neighbors that moved to your neighborhood working with a reload executive. And there's other things we teach you in Premier Coaching. Dear listener, remember, text Premier to 47372. So you're going to explain to them essentially that they can have their cake and eat it too. He can still be in control. He gets a psychological win of the praise you gave him at the top of that little delivery I gave you. And then you're going to show him prove to him statistically why listing with you is going to ultimately result in more money. Now I'm going to tell you the one instance where what I just said won't work. You listening? It's when they don't have to sell. That's why. Because if you deliver that script and you follow the system that we just gave you, and I did not talk about, this is maybe 30% of the whole listing process, especially with for sale by owners. You're going to give them the pre-listing pack. You're going to, deliver all the same information we teach everyone to do when working with any seller. The only ones that won't work, you cannot motivate the unmotivated. That's just the bottom line.
Unmotivated people are script proof.
Yes, exactly. Unmotivated people they don't have to sell their home. They ain't gonna. I mean, You have a seller that doesn't have to sell their home and you show up with a great offer, great conditions, great da-da-da-da, they're probably still not going to take the offer. Or they're going to screw it up by asking for even more. Or they're going to say something like, well, you delivered that offer to me so fast, I must have underpriced the house. Or you must have underpriced the house. And I'm going to put it back for sale and we're going to ask more. Those types of things. Because they didn't have to sell. A motivated seller is going to understand you've given them the award cycle. Okay, here, I'm going to go on a slight sidestep. I think I've stayed on track pretty good.
Pretty well.
Pretty good for me. Yeah. Okay. Summary. Yeah. Julie's going to make sure she's going to fill in the gaps. All right. Now, why is giving the praise to the seller, like I just suggested all of you guys do it. Why does that work? There's an interesting, lots of interesting research that's been done on goal setting. And Lieberman, what's the podcast we just listened to? He talked about that. Uberman podcast.
Oberman, I think.
Oh, but,
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah, he was summarizing it fairly well, but here's the gist of it. Is that when you have a goal, don't share it with other people. Maybe share it with your coach. Maybe share it with your spouse. Do not broadcast it to the world. Do not tell friends and family. Because what happens is, if you say, for example, you're going to, lose 20 pounds, or you're going to save $100,000, or you're going to whatever the hell it is, and you tell everyone, they are going to mini celebrate for you. And there's a chemical that gets released in your brain, which gives you the satisfaction that you would have only received had you actually accomplished the goal. In other words, that goal is no longer important to you because you've just gotten the cycle. You didn't lose the weight, but you had a whole bunch of people praise you for wanting to lose the weight. And 9 times out of 10, for almost everyone, that demotivates them from actually accomplishing the goal. So if you ever wondered why you set goals and you don't accomplish them, it's because you're telling people that you've set these particular goals and you've gotten the psychological, release that happens when other people give you praise and those types of things. Now, that's the reason that when you're talking with a for sale by owner and you pour on the praise gratuitously, demonstratively, they're going to, especially in front of the spouse, they're definitely going to get what they actually wanted from the deal, that praise. And they're getting it from you. And you're delivering it in a sincere way. And you've given them a whole bunch of compliments leading up to that. And now you're explaining to them that they can have their cake and eat it too. You're going to take that listing. But, they won't list with you if they don't actually have to sell. That's the reason you pre-qualified them as you were walking around. Sometimes you can pre-qualify them. Again, we can teach you in Premier Coaching. You can pre-qualify them after you've set the appointment to pop by and see the house. And here's what you do in that situation. I'm going to go back in time. So again, stay with me here. It's just a little bit of stream of consciousness, but hopefully you guys are following. So Mr. Seller, it's a Friday afternoon. You're talking to this FSBO. And you're sending an appointment for tomorrow at 10 or tomorrow at 1, right? And the seller says tomorrow at 1. You say, okay, perfect. I'll see you tomorrow at 1. But wait, just so that I'm clear, if one of my buyers, after I see the house, if one of my buyers wants to purchase your house, it's a great fit for them, and they want to move in, say, the next 30 to 60 days, will that create a problem for you? And that's not a very direct question, but it leads to the next direct question. They'll say yes, no, maybe so, or they'll say something like, we'll see. And then you can say, well, I just want to be clear that I don't want to make you homeless. I mean, I've got an extra couch in my basement that you can sleep on, make them laugh, right? But if I understand correctly, it's, you have 5 people in your home and I've only got one couch, so that might not work for you. So I don't want to bring one of my buyers by and make you homeless. So just so that I'm clear, once this property sells, where are you going next? And
it's a motivation check.
It's a motivation check. And you can do that, but that requires more skill than doing it when you're walking around the house. Because doing it over the phone before you've bonded with them in person does require more skill. But as you get more skilled, frankly, with the phone calls and the appointment setting, then you can start asking more of the pre-qual questions, because you might discover when asking that question that they're actually not motivated, and you probably don't want to go on the appointment. Now, personally, I would go on the appointment anyway, because sometimes they're not motivated today, but 6 months or 12 months from now, they might be motivated, or they're not motivated. Maybe they're not going to list the house for years, but because they bonded with you and they liked your energy and enthusiasm, they might refer you to somebody else. So you don't know. Anytime you have the opportunity to get in front of a seller, you absolutely go on it. But it's very important to know that if you're dealing with someone that doesn't have to sell, don't be surprised if you don't take the listing. And that's not a slight against you. That's just their situation, and that's just their mindset, because obviously they don't have to sell.
Is what it is. Okay, so let me take them back to what I feel is the best part of the script that you just did. It's when you went into, if I can take care of this, that, and the other thing, all the things that create stress, I take that off of your plate, and you're going to net the same, if not very likely more than you can do on your own, is, would you go ahead and list the home with me? The reason that works.
Go ahead. I mean, the question is, it's a reverse question, right? And I want you to, thank you for saying that too, because I should have actually drilled down on this. The question is, you guys say it like this: why wouldn't you list the house with me?
Right.
So I want you to start out by saying, why wouldn't you? Say it low, because you don't want the command word be wouldn't, right? You don't want the word that has the most impact in what you're saying to be the word wouldn't, because you're working against yourself.
You want it to be list.
Right. So you want to say, exactly. So you want to say, why wouldn't you list the house with me? And you want to say, list the house with me. Again, this is coaching, but this works. You want to say, list the house with me. And if I were coaching you right now, you would actually practice it with me. So we're going to do it. I want you to act like a normal coaching client.
Okay.
All right. So Julie, here's the scenario. Okay. Max is our French bulldog. Okay. And Max is about to eat one of your expensive shoes.
Right.
All right. And you don't want Max to eat one of your expensive shoes.
Much as I love him. No.
Because you need 2 shoes because
Sure.
you have 2 feet. Okay.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. And so I want you to tell him, and remember, you're an agent learning, not you. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
I want you to tell him not to eat your shoe. And I want you to say this, Max, don't eat my shoe. Say it.
Max, don't eat my shoe.
Okay, good. And that's how most agents will react. They'll say it and they'll upswing at the end. There'll be no power in their voice. They will have no authority in what they say. It will be very ineffective. The dog's going to go like, that doesn't sound like something I should be taking seriously. No. I'm chowing down on this shoe. Where's the barbecue sauce?
Right.
All right, now try it again with a little bit more authority.
Max, don't eat the shoe.
Okay, see, it's a little bit more authoritative. Now, the next level is a command. Now, I want you to tell Max not to eat your shoe, and I want you to do it so he knows you're serious. So he drops that shoe. His tiny little tail goes between his tiny little legs, and he goes and retreats and hopes that dog mom isn't pissed at him.
Max, no, don't eat that shoe.
Okay, so the command, that's it. So, Mr. Seller, why wouldn't you list the home with me? You guys get it? You see the difference? What you're doing, it's psychological. When you talk to someone and you say it in an authoritative tone, and there's a few key points in the script where you deliver it like that in person or on the phone, where they're going to, without knowing it, subconsciously start leading, or you're going to, essentially they're going to start following what you say, and you're going to be in control of the conversation. And I want to say one more thing. When you're going on these appointments, always remember, in life in general, by the way, dear listener, who's in control? The person asking the questions or the person answering the questions? Asking the questions or answering the questions. So if you've ever had an appointment that went belly up, it was because you were left in the position of asking questions. You were being interrogated by that seller and you were on your heels, for whatever reason. So you want to be always in the position of asking the questions, not answering the questions. And again, that's the process we teach you in Premier Coaching. Text the word Premier, Premier, to 47372, and you have immediate access to Premier Coaching. I know you love what you guys are hearing right now, but please understand this is just an overview of what we teach you in Premier when it comes to FSBOs. Julie, were you about to say something?
Well, what I was going to say is it's a little known fact that when you have a motivated prospect, they actually want you to have that kind of
control.
It seems counterintuitive,
well,
right?
It's like going to a doctor, right?
You want them to have, like when Zoe was having her tonsils out, I was so grateful that ear, nose, throat doctor, you remember her? She was very clear. Zoe was 8 at the time, right? And she struggled with strep throat and all of these things. So we finally go to the specialist. She looked me in the face. Go ahead.
Oh, so you're forgetting something. What? So, and your point is so powerful. I don't want you to underplay it. Okay. So we have a doctor here in Puerto Rico. His name is Dr. Marin. We love him. All right. Dr. Marin is not a command position type doctor. He'll give you the options. He'll say, oh, she might outgrow it. You might want to have the tonsils out. It wasn't anything like that. And, Julie and I are, let's be honest, strong personalities. And so we always thought, well, we don't want to put our daughter through that hell, right? We, all kinds of reasons why we didn't want to do that. We didn't want to do it in Puerto Rico. We didn't want exactly the whole thing. Okay, so we go to North Carolina where we have a little cabin in the mountains, and then she got strep throat, and then we went to the local doctor. The local doctor basically takes does the swab, does all the doctor's throat things, and she basically looked at Julie and I. And she said, why does this kid still have her tonsils? she said, no, you don't understand. Yeah. There's this way, would you remember the measurement thing of the size of the tonsils?
Oh,
what it's called?
There's degrees of how bad when you get tonsillitis or strep throat and your tonsils are swollen. The bigger they are, the closer they get to each other, which can cause your kid to basically
choke.
Suffocate. Okay. And so it's, I think, between 1 and 4, and she was like a 3.5.
Yeah.
And so,
she was pissed at us.
Yeah. She's 8. And so she sent us to the ENT, who was very direct with us and said, I'll never forget this. She goes, you don't still think she's going to grow out of this, do you? She goes, I'm going to schedule this in the next 2 weeks. We're expediting her surgery. And I was grateful because she took the control from me. I had struggled with this. Zoe was miserable. We didn't really want to do it, but she was very clear. She spoke very clearly and very directly with me. And in fact, in that moment, I felt relieved.
Yes.
Not so different than a for sale by owner or any other type of listing lead, to be honest, who actually has to sell. They have a problem. You're there to solve it.
Well,
keeping the house isn't an option. I don't want to have double mortgage payments. I'm fighting with my spouse about how to get this thing sold. I have this problem and I need your help. Just like we had the problem of Zoe getting strep throat nonstop.
And the doctor who actually did the procedure, we didn't have a prior relationship with any of these doctors. We had a prior relationship with Dr. Marin, but he was never direct with us, never took control. And then we went up to Harris Regional Hospital in North Carolina.
Oddly enough,
no, we don't own it. But I did put a picture of it on Instagram and made a joke that we bought a hospital, and some people believed us, but
they have the same font as us, which was hilarious.
It was hilarious. Anyway, their logo is the same font as ours. It really did look like we owned a hospital. So we're in the day of the procedure. This doctor walks in. He's doing like 3 of these things a day. He's a retired military guy. He's our age, if not older. He just walks in, looks at Julie and I. We probably look like we're about to pee our pants because we're so nervous for Zoe. Zoe at this point's under a little bit of sedative, so she's just off in babyland.
Playing with her polar bear.
Exactly. Yeah. And he totally takes control. This is what's going to happen. This is what you're going to experience. Da-da-da-da. She's going to be fine.
I've done this 3,000 times. Everything's good.
Off the kid goes. But we're trying to instill in you that your job as a professional is to take the stress away from the other person.
Yes.
Remove the stress from the situation. They don't want to sell the house. They don't want to have the stress and the bullshit that's associated with especially selling the house in this market. They want to feel confident that you're going to take that stress away. So you have to have that level of confidence, but you have to learn on the job. Don't wait until you have that confidence to have the confidence. Have the confidence because you have our coaching, you have our training, we have your backs, and you're going to know what to say and how to say it.
Which is why we arm you with things like the statistics, right? So maybe you're not like tonsil surgeon who's actually done 3,000 of them, and that's pretty awesome. You got all that experience. Well, maybe you haven't sold 3,000 houses, but you still can speak with authority that it's highly unlikely that you'll actually sell it yourself. Here's a statistic from our National Association of Realtors saying 11% of the time for sale by owners are successful. And when they are successful, typically they net 24, 25% less than a comparably listed home if it's able to sell at all.
Can I tell you what I'm thinking right now?
What?
Okay, we've been on for an hour. It doesn't feel like an hour to me, but I'm going to tell you what I'm thinking.
Sure.
You know, I've been married for 33 years this year, and I remember very clearly our first year in the business.
Me too.
And I remember Julie and I had a car cleaning and detailing business, and Julie was an elf at a year-round Christmas store, and she helped me in the car cleaning and detailing business. I had a staff of like 3 people, but these were not what you'd call really very lucrative, businesses. No. This was not something you want to form a career path on. We paid our way through college doing this. Julie wasn't literally a year-round elf. It was, if you picture what I'm describing, it's exactly what you're thinking. Elf, every day she had sparkles in her hair. After she stopped working there, it was like 2 years later where you still couldn't find sparkles someplace between her toes or whatever. True story. Okay, so I remember our first year in the business where our number one goal was to pay off student loans.
Yep.
We had to borrow some money along the way, and it was like 40 or 50 grand, wasn't it?
42,000.
And we had these student loan books. And these student loan books, this is, again, pre-internet, guys. Public internet didn't go live until 1996.
You didn't pay your bills online then.
No, you paid them with you ripped off one of these little coupon things. And these coupon things in these payment books had this like rubberized film on them that was basically designed to stop like a freaking Teflon coated 9mm bullet.
They were serious.
Yeah. These things were supposed to survive hurricanes, nuclear strike.
Yeah.
They wanted you to pay your damn student loans back in the day. Some of you might be able to relate to that.
Yeah.
So our only goal, our first year in the business, was to pay off those damn student loans. And, we wanted to learn how to do it as fast as possible. We quickly had the epiphany of everything we just shared with you. And I remember when you and I started going after the for sale by owners, I remember the relief I felt realizing that we could actually be successful being listing agents and how the process was the exact same every single damn time.
Yeah.
The seller would say the same thing almost the exact same time. Their facial expressions would happen at the same time. The whole process worked exactly the same. In other words, you don't have to learn what we're teaching you. You learn it at a high level. But then no matter where you sell real estate, you learn these skills, how to go after FSBOs, just to keep on task here. And you want to move from Ohio like we did, and you want to move out west, and you still want to basically focus on FSBOs. That skill set is transferable. Your local branding back in Ohio doesn't follow you. Your skill set follows you. You guys know who Viktor Frankl is? The Search for Meaning. He was in Auschwitz. He was in a concentration camp. He's written a lot of books about this. If you guys haven't researched or read his books, very depressing, very sad, but incredibly powerful. The reason he kept his humanity while other people didn't is because he knew in his heart and his soul and his mind that they couldn't take away the essence of what he knew, the essence of what he felt. And that's what got him through it. And that's true with regards to what we're teaching you. If you want to have experience, if you want to have a brand, if you want to be successful long term, you have to be a value of service to other people. We just given you an overview of the way you can be very successful to other people, and the rewards you get from this last a lifetime. And guys, in Premier Coaching, we teach you 22 different sources of lead generation. This is just one. The reason this and Expired, frankly, are our two favorite ones is because the seller has the house officially for sale. They will talk with you. There's not another agent to deal with. They give you their damn phone number, right? And oftentimes they want to move up. One FSBO lease equals 2 transactions. The average buyer side commission in the United States right now is $15,000. So if that means the average buyer is buying a house that's at least $500,000, which means they're probably moving up from a house that's $350,000 or something like that. That means that you are dealing with a total combined real estate transaction volume of around $1 million, which should equate to between $20,000 and $30,000. How many transactions do you have to do every year for you to make over $100,000 with that type of math? And yet, you guys want to attend a seminar on branding. You guys want to learn how to build funnels. You want to do all this stuff with Instagram. Why? You got in this business to help people, whether you know it or not. That is why you got in this business, and to make money to take care of yourself and take care of your family. This is your opportunity to do it. And again, we've given you an overview. We literally have no notes in front of us. This is stream of conscious for the most part, but I do feel emotional thinking about this because it changed our lives. And this was 3 decades ago. And we've taught, really that isn't what's got me. What's got me is all the people that you and I directly and through all of our coaches have been able to teach to go after FSBOs and help FSBOs list their homes and, not suffer the downside, of not listing with a broker.
Yep.
That is emotional to me because it puts me personally in alignment with what my highest and truest purpose on this planet is, which is to be of service to others. The others that Julie and I have chosen to be of service to is all of you. So please take this information. I need to take a break. I need to go, have some tea or whatever. But we didn't get an opportunity to overcome or help you overcome some of the things the seller might say. Like they might say, well, do you have a buyer? Will you be coming by with a buyer? Okay, I'm going to cover those two. It's the same answer. Mr. Seller, this is when you're setting an appointment on the phone. Mr. Seller, I very well might have a buyer. I need to see this home first to see which buyer that it might be a match for. So would tomorrow at 10 o'clock or 1 o'clock be better for you? Move right past that. Yeah. Sometimes the FSBOs are going to be a little bit vigilant and they're going to say, well, don't come by with a buyer. Well, Mr. Seller, I'm sure you'll agree that, it just makes sense that I show the home to buyers that it actually might be a good fit for. And I don't want to waste your time and I don't want to waste their time. So I'd love to pop by, see the house. I won't take a lot of your time, I promise. So tomorrow at 10 o'clock or tomorrow at 1 o'clock, which would be better for you? You guys get it? So overcome the objection and get right back to the mission that you're on, which is setting the appointment and getting in the house and following the rest of the process. So Julie, as we've gone through that, what are you thinking? What are your big takeaways?
Well, honestly, I do this exercise I call it FSBO math, right? And you just did a little bit of that. How many of them do you have to actually help in order to make a really good living with the average commission in the U.S. of $15,000 and the upside of probably they're going to buy with you as well? And, what I started to say at the top of the podcast was it's not just about helping the for sale by owner. That's just the springboard. That's what we used to do is we would list them. Almost always they would buy with us as well. You can do the paperwork at the same time. And then we would hold their house open and generate from the listing, which would lead to 2, 3, 4, 5 other transactions.
I need to underline something because I know there's some cranky skeptic out there that's hearing the 15,000 thing.
Yeah.
So the 15,000 number came from a report that Redfin just did. You guys can find this online. And the gist of it their report was that the average buyer side commission now in most of the country was less than 2.5%. So when I say it's the average is 15,000, that's where I'm getting the research. And the average percent, I don't remember, but I believe it was like 2.25 or 2.3% or something like that. So that means the house they're selling the average buyer is buying is more than 500,000.
Right.
So they might very well be selling a house that's 500,000, moving up to something that's 700,000, which makes the math that Julie is doing for you right now even more powerful.
So let's say that you were successful. Maybe you pop by, you use the script, you do everything that we have done on this call, and you're in Premier Coaching, so you have a higher level of skill, right? Let's say you do that, and you're able to list just one for sale by owner per month. Okay, so let's say you only do it 10 months of the year. You take December off to be with your family, all right? So
let's even make it better. You're going to freaking take all of month off of August because you want to work on your yoga or something. You want to, I'm not working August. Fine.
Because you know how to talk to for sale
Exactly.
owners.
And you're not going to work in December.
Nope.
And you're probably going to take the first 2 weeks
you're
off
gonna
in
do
January.
it 10 times a year, okay? So, and let's say that highly unlikely, none of those for sale by owners even are going to buy with you, and that you don't even create transactions. That's $150,000 just for the 10 for sale by owners. It's probably realistically going to be double that, triple that, because they're going to buy with you, most of them moving up statistically, okay? And through doing your open houses and all the things that we teach you, because you're a listing agent now, and you have control over your future because you're a listing agent, you're probably going to then generate 1, 2, 3, the best ones, maybe even 5 buyers and or sellers. And after you sell that for sale by owner in that neighborhood, you're then going to promote your just sold, right? Because they saw it turn from a for sale by owner sign into your sign with a sold sign on the top. And then you're going to get the next person.
It's endless. That's the reason.
It's control. It's endless.
Well, again.
And by the way, that's how we did it.
That's how we did it, and that's how we coached all of our coaching clients to do it. I'm thinking of all your personal clients that you have right now.
Absolutely.
They will take a listing, and I'm sure you know this number. How many transactions come off the average listing? I know I've heard different things. I'm remembering like 4 or 5.
It's usually 4 or 5, assuming that,
What do we mean by that?
Yeah.
You're going to sell the listing. You might sell the listing to your buyer. The seller's going to buy something. You're going to end up basically listing the neighbor's house. The neighbor's going to list a house with you, and they're going to buy a house. You're on and on and on.
And really great listings will produce probably 3 or 4 buyers that, you can do. We used to do a lot of first-time buyers when we got into the business because that was our original market.
Well, it's because
we didn't even have a house to sell,
We were selling, our original market was where we actually owned a home, and it was in a marketplace where there was a lot of first-time home buyer activity. We'd go list a FSBO. The FSBO would then be moving up to something else, and then sure enough, that first-time buyer, I would say 50% of the time didn't have an agent. They would meet us at an open house. They would then want to buy that house. So then we've double into that house. There's, 2 right there. The person buying the house, we didn't have any listings for the most part in the price ranges that most of those buyers or those sellers were buying in. We sell somebody else's listing. But then the neighbors started noticing that we were selling a lot of real estate, and they would then at least give us an opportunity through a listing presentation to take their listing. FSBOs who were in the community would see that FSBO ended up listing with us and we were successful selling it. So a lot of the FSBOs, after maybe 6 or 12 months of Julie and I aggressively going after this, they would know why we were knocking out their door calling because they had seen that we had sold those 3 or 4 FSBOs that they, were making note of having, attempted to sell them homes themselves. You guys get it? That's how you build brand. Brand is nothing other than reputation. You cannot buy brand. You cannot buy reputation. You have to earn it. You have to earn it from the success you've created with other people. And hopefully you're internalizing that. Hopefully, what I really hope and pray that all of you are taking away from today's podcast is you can freaking do this. Mm-hmm. Okay, if wet behind your ears, Tim and Julie Harris could do this when we were at our age, with no prior sales experience, with no background in real estate, with no freaking, any real estate background, right? With no reason at all that anyone would ever place bets that we'd be successful.
Nope.
If we can do it, you can do it too. You know how I know you can do it? Because we are 1,000x more successful as real estate coaches than we ever were selling real estate. And we were agents of the year with the National Association of Realtors, won all these things, all these plaques, all these awards, right? Technically, it was agents of the year in the rookie category for National Association of Realtors. I want to get all this stuff right.
Yep.
But since then, gone on to do hundreds and hundreds of thousands of coaching calls, not including the coaching calls that our coaches do. Do you think we know what the hell we're doing? I think we do. It's one thing to sell real estate at a high level. It's another thing to be able to teach other people to sell real estate at a high level. If you're ready to truly sell real estate at a high level, we're waiting for you. The easy button is for you to join Premier Coaching. You can go to premiercoaching.com, or you can just text the word Premier to 47372 and join Premier Coaching right away. Please take away from this podcast what we intended. Optimism, excitement, motivation. It's our job to motivate you. It's our job to educate you. It's ultimately your job to do the third thing, which is to get into action. Take action with this information that we gave you. Have a fantastic day. We'll talk to you on the show tomorrow.
This podcast is a part of the C-Suite Radio Network. For more top business podcasts, visit c-suiteradio.com.